Hi, Sitaram, and hello to everybody once again. So, we are meeting on a Friday evening as usual, but today is going to be special or it's going to be different. Why is it going to be different? Because, one second, we would be dealing with a topic that is very relevant to each and every one of us. And it goes to the crux or to the center of our feelings as human beings. It's such an important part that it gets neglected that we run to do the prayers, we run to do the puja, we run to do the meditation, but without first understanding how we are supposed to relate to each other for the purpose of having a successful human life. As we know, association is very important for mental health. There is absolutely nothing more self destructive than to feel alone. There is no one who I can talk to, there is no one who I can communicate to, and most important, you do not feel loved by anyone. And this is where, our society had built in structures to always ensure that we have companionship in our life. All of our friends, irrespective of our age, are someone who you can trust, you can care, and someone who you loved sometime in your life. If I ask any one of you who is over the age of 30 or 40 or 50, you would always say, my best friend was my childhood friends. And between your lifespan of, let us say, 30 years or 40 years and 70 years, that gap of 30 years or 40 years, you have not picked up a what we call a loving and a caring friend. So the friendship, as you can see, is based on innate love and affection. So what we want to do today is to cover this point that before we go to Mandir, or if we go to Mandir and we are part of a community, knowing all of the mantras and knowing how much gunas they are and knowing how much types of species of human beings they are not going to help you to live a happy life, because that knowledge is not relevant to happiness. It may be relevant to other things, but it's not relevant to happiness. So what we're going to do today, I'm going to share the screen as is usual to introduce this topic that I want to go through with you today. One moment. One second, let me share my screen. Okay. So if you can see the screen in front of you, it's heading the enduring power of friendship. And this is not the ordinary type of friends that we meet in a pub or we meet, at a party. Because if one wants to be honest, they are what you call frivolous friends. They do not last for a long time, or they could last for a long time. But such relationship based on a non-divine and a non-empathic concept have proven over the years that they do not have staying power and they do not bring happiness. In our dharma, we call friendship, or we call association, this power of association, which I will place in red, We call this satsang. The word that is really important here is not the sat. The sat means true, but it's not really important. What is important is the sangha. Sangha. The sangha. The whole of our Oriental philosophy, whether it's Hinduism, whether it's Advaita or Dvaita, whether it's Brahmanism, whether it's Buddhism, whether it's based on Shinto, whatever the culture of the Oriental is based on what we call a Sangha. Now, a Sangha is not a religious organization, but religion is part of it. And this is critical to know for those of us who are associated in the management of temple or mandir. It's critical to understand that the building that we go to is not a temple, but is a Sangha building. It is a place where we want to meet what we call our aims, our goal, and our objective, and to build friends that will make our life comfortable. And we are saying, when you have good friends and you have good companionship, that is what we call, it has a hidden power for happiness, good health, and abundance. But I want to go back to say that sometimes, when we go to satsanga, there is no love or there is no affection. In the real world today, many temples, mosques, churches, and synagogues are what we call places of immense unhappiness. So to change this and to get the enduring power of friendship, we have to try and form associations that brings happiness. This is the key. And you do not have to stay in a pond where you can't swim, or you do not have to stay in a pond where the water is stagnant. You then have to go and find the association that suits you. So you may want to know exactly where does it say that associations are good or satsanga is good. Where does it say? In all of our scriptures, from the Srimad Bhagavata to the Ramayana to the Mahabharata, there are always being associations. But as you can see, both in the Ramayana and in the Mahabharata, these satsanga or these associations can either be bad or they can be good. So we are talking here very specifically about good sanghas, sanghas that are used to make you happy and to elevate your soul. All Oriental dharmas function as the basis of a sangha. The sangha are providers of the totality of life support. And this is important that when we now go to what we call our yajna-shala, or our mandirs, which we have to rebuild our mandirs, so they become providers of the totality of life support. So it is a place where you get companionship. They're a place which is good for your mental health. There's a place that enables that you do not fall into poverty. There's a place of give you assistance in building homes, building schools, building hospitals. All these can happen when there is a successful and a good association of people. But what we want to do is just to hear some chanting from the Ramayana. And all of us who are familiar with the Ramayana would have, in one way or another, come across this beautiful 2 lines. So let us start with some Om. If you can chant Om with me to link yourself with the divine. And then we will recite the name of Sri Ram to bring us kinds of happiness. Om. If you can chant with me, Om. Om. Shri Ganeshaya Namah, Madhavaya Namah, Keshavaya Namah, Narayanaya Namah, Om Hara Hara, Mahadeva Shiva Shankara Shambhu. Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Rama. Chant or sing along with me. Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Rama. Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jai Jai Rama. Shri Ram Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Ram. And we go to these two lines. Binu Sata Sangha Vivekana Hoi. Recite with me. Binu Sata Sangha Vivekana Hoi. The next line. Rama Kripa Binu Sulvana Soi. Again. Rama Kripa Binu Sulvana Sohi. Let's start again. The first line. Binu Sata Sangha Vivekana Hoi. Rama Kripa Binu Sulvana Sohi. Siyavaju Ramachandra ki jai. Umapati Mahadev ki jai. Pavan Sutta Hanuman ki jai. Devotees, you will be saying in my mind, if I'm going to give up my cricket, my football, my TV soap, and all the other activities, then I must get something as a benefit or a trade for it. And this is, life is about a scale of balances that you always want to know that if you give A, you must receive B, but B must be greater than A, so you make a profit on the transaction. And most of us can relate to this. If you're in business, you're not there to make loss. So I'm hoping that, giving your 1 hour to come to satsang this evening, that there will be immense benefit that would last you a lifetime. Even if just one point is taken away from tonight, that would add to the complement of benefits that you have accumulated in your lifetime. So what is the benefit of giving up your hour? It's just to be reminded today that all of us want to be what we call have knowledge, have wisdom, to be wise. And okay, you can get some knowledge on YouTube, or you can get some knowledge on looking at television programs. But it's not the same as when language is communicated to you by a living person and the recipient is also a living being. So it's what you call a life-to-life transference. And that can never be replaced because of the divine intentions involved. So as I'm sitting down here today, I'm divinely wishing each and every one of you, right, to have a happy life, to have a prosperous life. But let's go back to satsang. Binu satsanga vivek. This word vivek, as in Swami Vivekananda. Here we are. If I can make it in red. One moment. Right. This word vivek is wisdom, or it means discernment, the ability to know what is good, what is bad. So wisdom does not dawn without satsang. Or it says, from a very young age, having the association of knowledgeable people and listening to kathas or discussions of knowledge, one will get wise. One will be able to protect oneself from anger, from malicious behavior, and from things that are soul destroying. So wisdom does not dawn without satsang, but without God's grace, one cannot get the opportunity to meet the true associates and thereby participate in satsang. Devotees, we know that God's rays of sun shine equally on every single item of God's creation. But when you're going for satsang, when a decision has got to be made, whether you're going to be the recipient of divine knowledge, that only comes from your own good fortune. It means you have been truly, truly blessed to be able to sit down and participate in what we call a divine discussion. It comes from Rama Kripa, by Ram's mercy and Sri Ram's blessing. It could be Bhagwan Shiva's blessings. It could be Jagadambi Mata's blessing. It could be Ganesh blessings. It could be by the blessings of Hanumanji. Whichever one is your Bhagwan, it means Rama Kripa, Hanumanji's Kripa, Bhagwan Shankar Kripa, Mata Jagadambi Mata Kripa. So by the blessings of God, you get this opportunity to redeem yourself and to elevate yourself for the benefit of yourself. Because this is about you. No one can elevate you, but satsang elevates you. But you will see as we goes on, you can also help to elevate the person next to you when you go to satsang. So when coming to satsang, or if we have a satsang, it's a very selfless motive. That in going to satsang, the warmth of your feeling, the warmth of your body, the warmth of your vision, also what we call infects or radiates to the person next to you. So in this current world situation, one should always reach out and seek out to participate in satsang. Devotees, this is only an appeal, but it has immense benefit to you that you can know now that if there is a satsang, do not make any judgment as to who is doing the satsang or what is going on. Just go to the satsang on the basis that I am going to make my presence there a divine one. But then again, it is the responsibility of what we call the sangha to ensure that the satsang becomes beneficial to all. So in the current world situation, one should reach out and seek out to participate in satsang, to get the knowledge of the holy name and the divine light from the Lord. And then one should meditate as much as possible to make his life successful. And nowadays we see the problems of this world. And let us not pretend that, there's lots of happy people in this world. And the question is always asked of us or you, what about people who do not go to church? What about people who do not go to satsang? Do they have a problem? Well, we don't know whether they have a problem or they don't, or we don't know that they don't have a problem. But what we are saying, these are what we call universal rules. Every single culture from the dawn of creation always met in circles. They sang and they danced and they prayed. So meeting in circles together, where it was to pray to the sun, to give thanks for the rain, to meet up at what we call springtime, to give thanks to the Lord for a good season, or to meet up in autumn to give thanks to the Lord for the harvest He has given us. It was a normal human relationship practice for us to meet up and be part of each other. But for the satsang to be successful, we have to go back again to the definition above, where we would help each other. Here, if I can just highlight this, devotees, as providers of the totality of life support. And therefore, we do not go to eat the prasad to have a discussion, sometimes a frivolous discussion, but you're going there to seek out whether we can provide life support, companionship, help in the mental health of individuals, help to the relief of poverty. 1 second, if I can just RELIEF. If we can help of the relief of poverty, but also in the ancient world, or in the what we call the non-Western world, it was the community who helped each other to build a house. It was the community who helped each other to make a wedding successful. It was a community that came together, that built the roads and cleaned the drains. So this is where satsanga is very important in its most divine, what we call, definition. But satsanga main purpose again is to give us peace and to take us on this path of what we call religious life. So if we go back to this beautiful part of the Ramcharitmanas, it's in Aranyakand, and it's a wonderful katha between Mata Shabri and Bhagwan Sri Ram. I have a nice picture. I hope I can find it. Yeah, this is a very nice picture that you would have seen in all of your soaps. And this is a wonderful story that with satsanga and devotion, the power of all the gods comes directly to you, but not come in terms of physical. Maybe he will come as an incarnation. But what it means is that from a philosophical point of view, you would be blessed with peace, with calmness, with prosperity. You will be blessed with protection, that no form of physical or mental affliction can touch you from the north, the south, the east, the west, the top or the bottom, or in between. Because this is where, if you have mental strength and focus, you have the protection of the gods. So let us go back, devotees. I hope I'm moving not too fast, but I just want to get these salient, what we call teachings from the Ramayana to strengthen us and to give us this power again to seek out satsang. Even if you go to satsang once a year, it will do you immense benefit. If you can go to satsang once a month, or like you're coming to satsang with me every Friday night, that is truly, truly heavenly. And I encourage you to continue to attend and to pass this word, because we'll miss you if you don't. So let us go back again about Rama Kripa Binu Sulabhana Sohi. One moment, devotees. Yeah, so Binu Satsanga Vivekana Hoi, Rama Kripa Binu Sulabhana Sohi. So there now goes on, when you, because of your greatness, you now experience good fortune, that you are now what we call the beneficiary of moksha, liberation, ananda, eternal peace. Whatever term you use it, you have reached this stage in your life when you have rid yourself of all of the temptations of unhappiness. So again, satsanga comes in. But here, let's highlight it again. So some of you, the screen on your phone may be too small. But let us go through this nice chant. And if I chant it, then the meaning will come out really nice in your ear. So let us start that. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Rama. Do chant with me. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Rama. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jai Jai Rama. Shri Rama Jai Ram, Jaya Jaya Sitaram. Pratama Bhagati Santana Kar Sanga. प्रथम भगति संतन कर संगा दूसरी रति मम katha prasanga. Devotees, these two lines, if we do not take the benefit of the whole of the Ramayana, but you take the benefit of the advice given by the Lord Himself. Now, this advice is not man-made advice, but this advice is what we call universal advice required for the performance of your spiritual endeavors. And all of us have these spiritual endeavors. But let us go back, as we are dealing with the power of association. We will not go to the other 9 forms of devotion, but we will only stick to number 1 and number 2 because they are related to the power of association, of how we can benefit. We can influence each other. You can influence your family, your friends, by having satsang at your home. And this is something which I would advise in the future. You know, when you go to temple and you do satsang in the temple, all of the blessing stays in the temple. But when you have satsanga at home with nice bhajan and kirtan, nice reading from Ramayana and Bhagavad Gita, even the walls of your home becomes blessed. And you will say, Panditji, my house is so small. Small is not an excuse. We can go and we will stand up and do satsang with you. Because when you want satsang to be done, do not identify with the smallness or the bigness of what you have, but identify yourself that with the association of the devotees that you will be associating with. So let us go back again to number 1 line. Pratama bhagati santana kar sanga दूसरी रति मम katha prasanga. So we were talking again about the power of association. Now, the Ramayana, both the Valmiki Ramayana and the Tulsidas Ramayana, is very clear on the what we call the quality and the reliability of this advice. Pratham means first, Bhagati means bhakti, Santana Kara Sangha, and Sangha, as we know, is the association of Santanaha, of saints. So here in its widest devotional concept, you're going to say, well, where can I find a saint? Why not yourself? A saint is that person who sees the Lord in all of His creation. That is the real definition of a saint. Not, okay, it might be the one who walks around with his orange robe and very knowledgeable. He's also a saint. But the greatest saint are the ones who has a tie and a jacket and goes about their world seeing each and every person as one deserving of care and affection. So you're being advised again that Pratama Bhagati Santanakara Sangha, the first step of devotion, my brothers and my sisters, is to keep the company of saints. And in the saints, I'm advising you, it's the widest definition of the word saint. Saint means your behavior is saintly. But let us say if you have the guy in the robe with a stick and he's full of anger, he's so impatient, well, he's not a saint. Saint means saintly, the way how we walk, the way how we speak, the way how we smile, the way how we relate to the person very close to us would define whether you're a saint or your behavior is saintly or not. So the advice is, we advise every week. The first satsang you always have is the one in your home, between yourself and your husband and wife, between yourself and your daughters and your son and your grandchild and your grandson and for the family. But every association of individuals can now be defined as a satsanga if it brings spiritual light and elevation to the group of people who are meeting. So devotees, we are extending the practice of our dharma. we are left with the label of Hinduism. But this goes beyond Hinduism. This is universalism. Our dharma was never known as Hinduism. Hinduism is a political definition. It's a geographical definition of people living in a particular geographical area. But our dharma is called Satya Sanatan Dharma, Ahimsa Paramo Dharma, which means is that it's all about the benefits of living together in a calm and kind way. So coming back to association, we are saying, look, Binasata Sang Vivekana Hoy, association with people will increase your knowledge, will increase your health, will increase your wealth. But let's take it one further to point one. Pratama Bhagati Santan Karasanga. Bhagwan Sri Ram is advising all of his devotees, all of the people of his creation, because he is the creator, that follow my teachings. You don't have to follow 9, but just follow number 1, do satsang. And what happened in satsang? It just happens that number 2 leads on from number 1. So when you go to satsang, do sarirati mama katha prasanga. Devotees, what happens when you go to satsanga? In satsanga, there will be discussion. In satsanga, there will be what we call chanting of stories. There would be katha prasanga pertaining to the Lord. So, in satsang, you satisfy many of the criteria. So you can have satsang at home. If there is not a proper satsang, that's where you can go to. Then prepare yourself on a Saturday morning or a Sunday morning with your family. Give yourself half an hour or an hour to do this satsang to get what we call the divine benefits. So we also recommended last week whole katha was on what's in a name. Devotees, and we made just to remind you, hold on to a name of God. Whatever name you want, it's up to you to hold on to that name of God. And let us say, we defined last week that the name of the Supreme Lord are numerous. So, okay, what happened if I do not pray to Bhagwan Shiva? Would he be upset? What happened if I'm praying to Sri Ram but I don't pray to Bhagwan Krishna? Would Bhagwan Krishna be upset? And this is what the problem which has come as a result of lack of understanding and lack of education on the nature of divinity. His names are many, but he is one. His names are thousands and thousands and thousands, but he is one. Meditate on this one name of the Lord. And as you go or meditate, even greater than the name, meditate on the qualities of the Lord. It's so important, devotees, that we start doing this, and you yourself will see the changes that will come about in your life. Now, we were discussing what we call the religious side. But how does this work in reality? Is there any what we call stories that you can relate to that would make sense of your importance in satsang? Not my importance, but of your importance in satsang. And only when you feel that you are important, you will be encouraged to go to satsang. So this is the challenge now, to change our way of thinking. Instead of going to mandir to do puja or to do whatever else, we go to mandir to do satsanga. So let us now go and understand how important each and every one of you happens to be when you participate in satsang. Association is the human quality. One moment. It's a human quality, but not unique to human beings. So you thought that only you alone can do satsang? We can look at the animal kingdom and see how the ant build. One moment. This is 1 second, devotees. Yeah. How the ant build huge colonies of millions of ants, and how the bees in the hive function for the benefit and the survival of the whole community of bees, and how in the ocean the killer whale is the closest to human beings in terms of the success of living in a harmonious and selfless community. So we now go to see that if we get this right, and if we can expand this concept of satsang outside of the temples into a wider society, then we will make a difference in this life while you are living, while you're still alive. You will make a difference when you start to go out now and says, well, how can I influence what is happening in my community by being part of a satsanga? 1 second. But I can restate that man has not learned to live a harmonious life and selfless life for the good and success of all. Let us not pretend. Many groups of people hate each other and will go out of their way to destroy the life undervalue and the values of other groups, whether they be different by means of color, philosophy, or religion. And this is, let us not pretend that we as human beings have been successful as a species in living in peace and harmony. But we have to start some way. But let us not look at the world, but let us focus on our own dharma, or the purpose for which this discussion is all about, on how we should learn to value each other when we are in satsang. And the best way to do this, devotees, is to do this by means of a story. Many satsanga or many organizations starts big. And then as time goes on, numbers dwindle until only one or the pandit is left all by himself. But this need not be the case if we start to reorganize our temples and our sanghas and our mandirs. So I will tell you the story of Ram Lal. He was an active participant and a spiritual seeker and part of a group that got together to discuss spiritual topics under a mentor. But it was noticed that he had stopped participating in them without notice. So devotees, let us stop here. Let us take some note here. I know what happens, let us say, in many of the Christian churches. The moment a member doesn't come, Brother John or Brother Peter or Sister Mary will phone and says, "Hi, Derek. Is everything okay at home? We did not see you in church for the past 2 weeks." And he's going to say, "Oh, Sister Mary, what can I say? I've been having, some difficult time with the flu or the fever. But thank you so much. I did not realize I was valued to that extent, but I will ensure that on the first opportunity, I will come back and join you." So right away, because of the connection and the fact that he was valued and missed, and someone reached out to him, which means the satsanga is not depleted. Anyway, so basically, 1 second. Right. So after he was missed, Ramlal was missed for a few weeks. He had a knock at his door and found the founder or the leader of the group was Krishna. So after a few weeks, in the middle of winter, Krishna, the group's coordinator, decided to visit Ramlal. He knocked at the door and found Ramlal sitting in front of the fireplace reading a book. Very uncomfortable, but this is the way it is. Let us make this a bit big so you can read a bit too. So Ramlal allowed Krishna to come into his house. He knocked at the door. He says, please come and take a seat. So he sat down on a chair and they smiled at each other. But there was no conversation between them. In fact, there was silence. Can you imagine, somebody's coming to your house and you're not going to say, hi, hello, how are you? How was your journey? No, this was really bad. So, Ramlal sits on his chair, Krishna sits on his chair, and they are just, looking at each other. So in the room, he was just, Ramlal had a big fireplace, and it was winter, so the fire was blazing. So after a time, Krishna got up. So without saying anything, Krishna started to focus at the fireplace, burning very brightly. He then got up and using what we call chinta or a tongue, he took the brightest log from the fireplace and placed it alongside the brightly lit fire away from the fire. In a very short while, what do you think happened when this brightly lit log was removed? In a short while, the log removed from the burning fire subsided until it was only a momentary glow shortly after the fire went out. And devotees, there's a lot to the story that will come in the end. Within a few minutes, what was previously bright, lit and radiating heat became nothing more than a black, dead piece of wood. The silence continues as they saw the dead piece of wood remaining isolated from the fire, radiating heat and providing warmth on the cold night. So both of the gentlemen continued to look at the log and glancing at the fire and to know what would happen next. After a while, Krishna got up and with the chinta or with the tongue, he picked up the isolated piece of wood, apparently of no use, and placed it back where it was in the middle of the fire. Right away it rekindled, fueled by the light and by the heat of the burning logs around. Still in silence between them, they looked at each other. Devotees, this story has wonderful teaching which you will remember for the rest of your life. Krishna got up to walk out of the door and Ramlal joined him. He tapped Krishna on his shoulder and to thank him for the visit, but most important, to thank him for a beautiful lesson, he said, I shall return to the group very soon. But let us understand the importance of the association or being in a group of people, or is to add being in a group of people or satsanga or a club or whatever term you may use it. The fundamental is to choose people we associate with. There are many criteria you can choose to make your journey to a satsang. The quartz crystal, all of us now have some form of quartz in our house. The quartz crystal assumes the color of the object in its proximity, regardless of what the object is or the color of what the object is. And it's the same thing as us. If we choose the wrong company, devotees, then you would reflect their blackness. And therefore be very careful when you choose who you will be your friends. The first criteria, according to the books, choose people that has a little bit of genuine divine values in them. The second criteria is that what we call empathy or gravitas. Now, this word gravitas is a wonderful word. It's a word that you can experiment with. It's not related to gravitation or gravitational pull, but it goes deeper than that. Let's highlight the meaning so you can see it. One moment. So gravitas, this means dignity. So you want people who are serious, or solemnity of manner. It refers to having greater skill, experience, or talent in areas that we are working on. That could be technical, scientific, or literary. So here again, people who are knowledgeable sometimes are being kept out of our societies. So we want to give this rethinking of what a satsang or a temple is. And devotees, let us go slightly a bit forward. One moment. 1 second. Let's go slightly. So we come back to the moral of this story. The moral of this story is that the wood, which was once bright and shining when it was in the company of others, became virtually useless, weak, and died as a result of the lack of association with the other pieces of wood. But that does not necessarily have to be the case. The moment the piece of wood was placed back into the fire, the others around that piece of wood shared their warmth and their heat with that dead piece of wood to bring it back to life. So if you had any doubt of what you can do, this story should tell you that your heat and your life can add life to someone else. Devotees, in many homes, there are unhappiness. Families don't talk to each other. They feel estranged. In some communities, people gang up and they have bad attitude, or they gossip about other people and make them very unhappy. Do not participate in such activities because it is self-destroying. Be like the fire and the wood in the fire, who was willing to take the burnt out log back into the center and add life again. So your responsibility, you have a living responsibility to continue to make alive and to add life to all around you. One moment. So it says, no matter how great you are, if you choose bad association, you will become and look up what we call abominable in the eyes of the world. Many of us have to appreciate how soul destroying is bad association, whether they be mother, father, husband, wife, sons, daughter, or families. The association of bad people leads to your death and destruction. And there cannot be a greater example than that of the Mahabharata. And I will tell you now the story of Dhrita Rashtra. So we all know that, at least we should know, that Dhrita Rashtra was one of the main players of the Mahabharata. He was the brother of Pandu, and Pandu, as we know, died due to an unfortunate incident in his life. But there again, we shan't go there. So Dhritarashtra had everything that should have made him a great king. So let us understand his lineage. You will say, well, look, if someone has high birth, someone has good knowledge and good teachers and good mentor, they should behave in a dharmic way. But that's not always the case. So let us say, who is Dhritarashtra? Who is Dhritarashtra? Who exactly is him? Knowing that his name means he who supports the nation. So, his stars were so good that he was given what we call the gift of looking after his nation. We think that many of us identify him as a wicked man and a weak man, but who are we in comparison to Dhritarashtra? You might not have known his lineage, But now I will at least give you a little bit of the story that goes to his lineage. His father was the greatest of the great. He was the son of Veda Vyasa. Veda Vyasa is the one who wrote and compiled all of the Vedas and wrote what we call the Mahabharata, and you know, give Sanjay the power of vision to see the Gita and to outline the Gita to Dhritarashtra. So he was the son of Ved Vyasa. Now, who were his grandparents? Now, Ved Vyasa is a direct descendant of the literary form of Bhagwan. So you cannot have, better genealogy than that. So even with all of that greatness, he still went up to and have the greatest guru in the world in Bhishma Pitamaha. So he had the good training, he had good birth. Yet, but he had the defect was that he was attracted by association of somebody who was very greedy for power and could not control his mind and senses. Devotees, all of us at one time or another can fall victim. When our ego gets greater than us, we would befriend the wicked to get a little bit of power and influence. And this is so adharmic. So his one defect was that he loved his son Duryodhana to such an extent that he will protect his wrong. And even when he was told that Duryodhana will lead, you to so much trouble, he refused to what we call sever his link to Duryodhana. And this is a wonderful example. The other example in the opposite way was the story of Ravan and Bibhishan. When your association with the king of Lanka, your big brother, your dada, would result in your death and your demise, you do not allow him to do, but you sever the links with him and you go to the one that will give you peace and happiness, who is Sri Ram. The same story of Satsanga again between Bhakt Prahalada and his father Hiranyakashipu, that he was not willing to have an unholy relationship with his father, who was what we call a demon. So we always have these choices in life. It doesn't matter how close it is, move away from that which is not good for you to that which is good for you. Just as the logs of wood take fire and heat from the one moment, devotees. Yeah. Just as the logs of wood takes fire and heat from the rest while making their own contribution, it is worth reminding each and every one of us that we are part of the flame. It is very important to recall the unison. We are responsible for keeping each other flame burning. So devotees, this is the essence of life. You would not get a greater lesson than this of your own, what we call powerful value, that you are valuable because you have this ability to keep someone else's flame alight. Never disappoint that person whose flame may go out and may burn because of your lack of association with them. All your bhajans and all your prayers and all your readings of the scriptures are of no use unless you add value to the other Bhagwan that is inside the persons around you. He is a saint who sees me in all. This is the fundamental teachings of Bhagwan Sri Krishna. More than that, to sustain the fire for a long period, we must promote unison among a favorable group so that the fire is really strong, effective, and lasting. And devotees, this is so fundamental that we do not want to start something only to find that it burns out without energy in the fullness of time. Associates and fellow members, a group is also a family. There are times when incidents cause us to drift apart. But we need to look at why we came together. The higher purpose. It does not matter if we are at times bothered by unfortunate quarrels and misunderstanding, what matters is that we remain connected. Let us talk to each other and communicate with each other. Nowadays, you can block someone on your phone and your WhatsApp, and therefore you break the communication between them. Let's reiterate it again. What matters is that we must always stay connected. Even as we say in personal relationship, if you want a divorce to happen in a home, let husband and wife and husband stop talking to each other and sleeping on the floor or in a different bedroom. No connection. So if we want to live a life of happiness, right? Let us have unison. Let us remain connected, even in the middle of what we call a temporary dark cloud. Let's focus on learning and drawing inspiration from one another to keep the flame of life burning bright. So, devotees, this is, it's one of those what we call philosophical satsanga. It has prayers, it has mantras, but it has important teachings of your life responsibility, devotees. Let me recite the last line again. Let us focus on learning and drawing inspiration from one another to keep the flame burning bright. And remember, it's not your flame or my flame, but it's our flame that when we are in unity, our flame is so strong that no negative, no darkness can come near us because of the strength of our own individual commitment to each other. Om Shri Krishna Aye Nama. Boliye Syabaju Ramachandra ki jai. Umapati Mahadeva ki jai. Boliye Pawan Putra Hanuman ki jai.